Okay, Joe, I really appreciate you being available to join me today. I'm speaking here today with Joe Parks. He's our Sergeant-at-arms on our board of realtors for Fresno County. So I wanted to sit down with Joe a little bit and kind of pick your brain and learn a little bit about Joe so we can, provide some information to the public. Joe, I want to start by asking you to tell us about your involvement with Realtors of Fresno County and why you felt the urge to join.
You know, we're a relatively new chapter here in Fresno. The organization has been around for some time, but new to Fresno, and I saw the need. Right now in California as a whole, people buyers are looking for how to become homeowners, and big time here in the Valley. Right. And so, what I love about Realtors is that they're helping everyone, but specifically African Americans, as part of that group that is looking for how do I achieve the American dream of home ownership. And so this is a chance for me to kind of give back and share some of the knowledge that I've been able to, garner over the years and kind of share and help others achieve that goal.
Right. Okay. No, thank you. And I appreciate you saying that. And I know that you're also involved. I mean, you're the current president for a local VA rep. And
that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, obviously you've had a lot of experience, obviously being a part of that organization, which is relatively new to Fresno. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So based on, your involvement with VA and sort of, the hard work you've put in with the VA rep, what have you benefited from not only being on the VA rep, but also with Realtors of Fresno County as far as being a part of local organizations that are here to benefit the community? How has these organizations benefited you personally and professionally?
Wow, that's a good question. How have these organizations benefited me personally and professionally? I think the answer is the same on both fronts. Really, it's about being able to give back. Zig Ziglar said it best. When you help others get what they want, you end up getting what you want. And I wish more people really would embrace that mindset, because I think he had it right. He hit the nail right on the head. And so that's been the satisfaction for me. Every time I've been doing real estate since 2001, and every homeowner I remember, and each time it never gets old, handing those keys over, helping a homeowner sell their home and get the right price, a fair price for that home, and not be finding out later on they could have sold it for more, and because they're going to use that to continue fuel the dream, keep it going. Right. And so it's just a great feeling being able to be a part of that journey.
Okay. No, that's great. That's well put. And obviously you just alluded to the fact that you started in the real estate industry in 2001. Mm-hmm. So you obviously went through the rough period and you saw the economic struggles in 2008 and that time frame. Now, obviously, what were some initial obstacles that you faced when you first started, as an agent?
So the initial obstacles I faced when I first became an agent, not knowing how to get business. Where do you get business from? I want to do this thing. I want to know more about home ownership. And it was that same principle with Zig Ziglar. I looked at real estate and I said, wow, that's like a fun career, because you get to go out and look at these homes and tour these homes. But at the same time, they pay you to do that. So that's fun. But also the knowledge that I can gain, because I was relatively young, and so I wanted to know more about how can I take advantage of the real estate market and help others do the same, and they'll pay me to do this. And so the first challenge was, okay, well, where do I get customers from? How do I let people know that I'm here and I can help and I want to help? So that's my big thing. Yeah,
that's your biggest challenge. Okay, and now obviously over the years you've had a lot of experience in the business, so it seems like that's something that you've really kind of overcome, right? Because your knowledge in the business, you've kind of learned the ins and outs of how to be able to build a new business. But for a new agent starting out, that's a tough task, right? As you well know.
It is. Yeah.
Right. So what would you do differently now that you did when you first started out?
And I don't know. I'm just going to be real. As I just feel better being real instead of giving the canned answer. And so what I would do differently, a lot of the things I'm going to tell you are probably not the popular answers, but I think they're the things that work.
Okay.
And so number one, I'd find a mentor. And a lot of people don't want to do that. People right away, they get out and they want to make the big dollars. But I think that if you get the equipment, you get the knowledge and know-how first by teaming up with someone that's already seasoned.
Right.
If I had to do it over again, I'd do it for free. I would work for that mentor for free. Okay. And many will, what, free? Yeah, because once you get that knowledge, it's in you. It doesn't just seep away overnight. When you wake up in the morning, you forget everything. It's there, and you're going to use that knowledge and build upon it year after year after year, and help so many families. But the first part is getting it. And so having what did they have back in the day when they came to the California or the United States? They had the Indian guides. What do they call those? Someone to kind of guide you. I think that's what a mentor is, to kind of guide you.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really good advice, and that's, and I had in one of my conversations with other people, it's very, very important, especially in this business, to have a mentor, like you said, to have someone that you can sort of, rely on for sort of some guidance, right? Because you said, without knowing and having the tools to be effective in this business, you're sort of, kind of, making things strenuous on yourself, right? So having a mentor is very, very important. Now, that's great advice. What would be another advice that you would offer yourself, for example, or a brand new agent starting out, besides the mentorship?
Invest in yourself. And these are all things that many people struggle with. First of all, getting a mentor. They struggle with wanting, because school education is not free. I'm sorry, it's not. Right. Everyone's for free, but it's not. You can't go to any institution here in the United States that I'm aware of and get a quality education, and it's for free. Let me know so I can send my kids. But but then people turn to their profession and expect to learn something that's going to change lives. Yeah, for free. So that's the first thing. Get a mentor. It's going to cost you. Number two, invest in yourself. That costs you. And that's really what separates some of the top agents from agents that are not the top, because the top agents understand this, and they have a budget set aside, and every month they're doing something to sharpen the sword. Okay. No, that is really good advice, Joe. Thank you. So obviously, COVID-19 is kind of at the top of everybody's mind right now. That's what, everybody's focusing on. What are some challenges that you have faced professionally since this whole pandemic started? If any. I wouldn't call them challenges per se for me. If I looked at it that way, if I looked at it as a challenge, I would say educating people, because the fear factor. People all of a sudden start panicking, and I think that's the biggest challenge, is making sure I educate everyone that, hey, homes are still being sold. Right. Buyers are still buying homes right now. They are. I mean, I'm out there every day sending links for virtual tours to buyers that are saying, hey, I want to see some properties. Can you send me a link to that property? I've gone out to vacant homes and toured the properties and made a link for the agents that didn't do that, and sent that to buyers, because some agents haven't caught on to this train yet. So made a video, sent it out to the clients, and just educating the public or the community at large that, hey, business is still going forward. The county recorder's office is still open. They're recording deals every day. They're not open to the public. You can't walk in, but the title companies can send information online. And so that's the thing. Business is still happening, but a lot of it now, we're embracing technology to do it. Okay. And this Zoom call we're doing right now, I did a listing presentation on Zoom. Okay, The homeowner walked through her home with the video showing me her upgrades and the things that she did to the home. And I was able to tell her, okay, well, I gave her some advice and said, okay, based on if you do these things right here, this is the price we can get. And we went on to list the home. That's great. So obviously you've adapted really well. And I think, that's kind of been the task for all of us in this profession, is having to adapt. One thing I wanted to ask you, with everything going on, obviously there's been, fluctuation of interest rates. And we've seen interest rate at their lowest in a very, very long time. Have you seen an influx of potential buyers due to interest rates specifically? Well, wow, that's a really Good question, and timely, because there's a lot of changes every week. The loan industry is going through a lot of change,
Right.
and so I mean, just today, I found out that many of the lenders are tightening the restrictions even more, especially in the area of refinance. And it makes sense when you think about it. And so basically, what they're doing is they're tightening the guidelines. So you're required to have a lower debt to income ratio, required to less money out. What kind of reserves do you have? What kind of equity do you have? They're looking at all these things a little bit tighter, and your credit. They're requiring a higher credit score now on these cash out refinances. And when you think about it, it makes sense, because what the banks are concerned about is we have a large number of people right now, and I'm just being real, and we got to be real about this,
Right.
filing for unemployment. We've got people that are taking advantage of the forbearance program, not realizing that forbearance is not the same thing as forgiveness. And some people don't realize that.
Right. I'm
And
glad
so
you
that's
brought that.
another challenge, helping people understand that forbearance is not forgiveness. And let's have a game plan. Don't, your bank may come back and hit you with the lump sum balloon payment that's due. And just to kind of segue for a hot second, that's one of the things with the VA rep. What I love about that organization is that we're meeting with these banks behind the scenes right now to figure out, because each bank is going to have their own program on how they deal with the forbearance issue, like what they're going to require. Was it going to be spread over 12 months? Is it going to be tacked onto the back of the loan? How are they going to do it? So trying to get in on the front end of that and share that with the public. So it's a direction we'll be taking. And I think with my position here at Realtors, the Realtors of Fresno County, same thing. I'm going to be sharing that information, because this is information that not just for veterans, it's for everyone to take advantage of.
Right. No, I really appreciate that, and thank you for that information. I think that's very valuable to understand, and I think, like you said, there are many people out there who just thought, what, I'm unemployed, or I've been laid off, so all of a sudden I'm not going to just pay mortgage and it's going to be forgiven. And there's obviously having the lack of information, being educated on this is very important, because banks are just not going to forego this, right? One way or another, that's going to be tacked on, or it's going to be restructured. So being able to properly understand that and know how to game plan is very, very important. What would you say would be, and I think you touched on it a little bit earlier, what would you say would be the biggest misconception right now, with coronavirus? I think a lot of people are under the impression that, business is not going to be able to function as normal in terms of house sales and whatnot. What would you say is the biggest misconception at this time, in related to the housing market?
Well, I'm glad you said this. I was going to tell you, with the fact that I'm a realtor, that's kind of my world. Like every day I'm dealing with what's going on with the real estate market. People are constantly asking me. My phone is blowing up right now with people calling me and saying, hey, what does this mean for the real estate market? Myself as a homeowner, what does this mean for me? Myself as a home buyer, what does this mean for me? So biggest misconception, I think we touched on it earlier, is that real estate is still happening. A recession doesn't necessarily mean crisis. A recession is not the same thing as a housing crisis.
Correct.
And so even if we do see a little dip in the housing market, and I say the experts are saying it's going to be a small dip, if any, and it won't be for very long. We'll quickly recover. Most experts believe that the housing market is really going to be the vehicle that gets us out of the recession, because the housing market is strong right now. Yeah.
Right.
And what home buyers need to know is that, same as before, just really take care of your credit. And I think one of the biggest things I would say to home buyers out there, I think many of them, we live in an age where we have technology, we have our mini computer on our cell phone, and we rely on that, and that's great. But realtors are a great resource, and they're free to buyers. They don't charge a fee for buyers to consult with them. And it amazes me how many buyers just don't take advantage of talking to the local realtor who spends well over 40 hours a week educating themselves, well over 40 hours a week, educating themselves on what's going on with the real estate market. And there's no way that the normal consumer can have the same access to that information. So why not use it? Lean on that realtor. Doesn't mean you still can't take advantage of technology, but lean on your local realtor who's going to these meetings and they're talking to the banks and they're watching webinars and taking training.
Exactly. Okay. No, that's really, really good. Something that, it's been a struggle for, obviously with everything going on, you do have people that are being laid off, but I want to talk specifically about independent contractors, which are realtors or small businesses. Some people have been affected, and there are some programs that are being offered to sort of kind of help and in terms of softening the blow a little bit, if you per se. Um, have you had in your encounters anybody specifically? I mean, not asking to name names, but do you feel a sense that there are some people out there in the industry who are affected financially, which I think many probably are, and are they also concerned with seeking the resources, whether it's with banks, to be able to see what they can do as far as some of the programs available for independent contractors?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm an expert on that. I'll just give you my opinion.
Uh-huh.
From what I've seen, it's been very difficult for businesses to take advantage of these monies.
Right.
I've only met one business person so his service, he has other businesses that utilize him. He's an insurance agent, so he has a lot of businesses as his clients. And out of all his clients, none of his clients, and he has a really nice sized book of business, none of them have been able to take advantage of the money that was supposed to be there to help. He was able to do it, but none of his clients have. And so I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's been pretty tough for businesses to take advantage of that. I think we are seeing layoffs. We're seeing companies cut back. We are going to see, and some businesses have already closed, and they may not open back up. So that's going to happen. We are going to have that, but I believe we'll overcome it. In fourth quarter, we're looking to have a strong fourth quarter. Again, this is what the experts are saying, and unfortunately, we are going to have some foreclosures in that market, and we are going to have some short sales.
Right. Okay. Now, obviously, with your depth of expertise and experience in the business, especially having gone through the recession back in 2008, around that time frame, how would you compare that to this? And I'm not saying that they can be comparable necessarily, but what sort of, what's your mindset having gone through that? And now, have you been prepared enough to say, you know what, I can obviously, go through any sort of economic distress possibly?
So are you meaning for myself personally, how is this different? This time different than then?
Right.
Well, I'm going to answer your question a little bit deeper, try to answer two things at once. So number one, I do not believe this is the same as 2008, 2009, 2010 during that era. Okay. One of the biggest factors being that 70% of homeowners have 30% or more equity in their homes. So homeowners have more equity in their homes now than they did back then. Back then, people would want to refinance. They did not have the equity. Rates are really low right now. And so the rates are good. However, as we stated earlier, you may not be able to get as much cash out. But if you're just trying to get a rate and term, that's going to be a little easy, normal. But getting cash out, that may be a little tougher. So you will be able to take advantage of those lower rates as long as your credit's there, right? And you have the job history. And it's great that many Americans have that equity in there. So for those that do have to sell, if it comes to that and they have to sell, they're not walking away underwater where they're having to foreclose or short sell. There will be some, but there's many that won't have to do that. For myself personally, how is this different for me? I believe that through education, and especially during this time, this is great. There's been so many educational opportunities just through our local association of realtors that have been provided. Yeah. There's been classes for free that have been offered. A lot of vendors have stepped up and offered free classes. So those that are wise, they're taking advantage of those classes. So I've taken advantage of a lot of those classes and added that information to what I do. And so that's position me to offer more value to my sellers and my buyers.
Oh, that's great. And I really appreciate the way you sort of distinguish the difference between 2008 era economic crisis to now, because, a lot of people have jumped to the gun and it's like, oh, we're back, 2008 here, so people fear that major recession. And so, it seems like we're able to, eventually get through this. And I think, the uncertainty is kind of what provides the fear, as you mentioned earlier, is people are very fearful. And I think, you kind of alluded and provided some really good information as to the difference. Now, let me ask you personally, right? So personally, what sort of things have you done to adapt? When you leave the house, are you wearing a mask, or what sort of personal changes have you made in light of COVID-19?
So when you mentioned the mask and gloves, to me, those things are minor to me, but that's almost like a given. Everyone should be carrying a mask. If they're touring homes, the realtors, the goal is for the realtor to have the gloves to kind of protect the client. So we have some plastic gloves that we wear, have some hand sanitizer on hand, booties to put on your feet as you walk through the properties. So and to me, that's not that big a deal, because even prior to COVID-19, there were homeowners that wanted you to protect their floors, and they would require or request that you wear booties on your feet before you went in. So yeah, so that's not a big change for me personally. The biggest change for me would be just like I said before, educating my clients that business is still happening, readjusting to what is available. So for first-time home buyers, that program is a little bit different now. Instead of a 30-day escrow, I'm like, hey, let's do a 45-day escrow right now. If you're looking to try to get down payment assistance, then and there's not as many avenues for down payment assistance right now. There's a couple, and so of course we want to ask for more time because there's more people applying for that. So on the buyer side, there's that. For the sellers, being sensitive to the fact that we are we do have a shelter-in-place ordinance. So what we do is when I show a home, I try to only have 1 or 2 people go through the home instead of a crowd. Sometimes they'll bring a carload with the family, and so and in this environment, we want to kind of limit that to about 2 people at a time going through the property. For the seller, also make sure we provide a video so that for those people that will still want to see the home, and maybe they just want to filter it through first. So I'm telling my buyers, hey, drive through the neighborhood first. Make sure you like the neighborhood and you're familiar with the floor plans. A realtor can help with that. And then if there's any online videos that you can look at, take a look at those first. And then after you've done those things and you're still interested in this property, then schedule a time with your realtor to go through and take a look at it. So that's how I'm educating my buyers. And the same thing with my sellers. We're asking buyers to, hey, have you had a chance to drive through the neighborhood first and make sure that this is, because many times you drive up to the neighborhood and you're like, okay, you already know that this is not going to be a fit, but you're like, hey, let's just go look. Well, this is not the environment to just go look. You really want to be a little wiser how you're shopping.
A little bit more prepared. And, based on everything you've said, it seems like some of these things we should have already been doing, right? So, it seems like COVID-19 has actually made us really practice some things that we can not only, obviously do now, but do in the future to kind of add to a repertoire to our game in terms of the industry. I want to thank you so much for your time, Joe. That was excellent, very informative, and we can't thank you enough for being a part of our board and just the amount of expertise and just knowledge that you bring to our board is immensely appreciated. And, I want to thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you personally once all this is over, and hope you're enjoying staying home with the family and staying safe and healthy.
Great. No, it's my pleasure.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it.
All right. You have a great day.